and welcome to Tayo Mini Reads, Reviews, Discusses, Monologues about everything and anything, and that's on period. Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. Oh my gosh, it's been such a busy August. I was on vacation for about 2 weeks, not concurrently. Obviously, I was in London for 1 week, and then I was also in Calgary for another week. So week slash weekend, whatever. Anyways, it was really nice. I enjoyed both trips, and I mean, they were so different trips in all. Like, London is more like a modern New York, while Calgary was more nature, and we did go to Banff and a couple of other places. So it was really nice. It was a nice trip. Anyways, let's get to what I ended up reading in August of 2025. So I have to say I'm super proud of myself because I thought, like, with all of the trips and all, like, the, not being in my comfort zone, my comfort space, I would not get a lot of reading done, but shame on me or shame on you, I don't know. But anyways, I did get a lot of reading done, and I actually read 5 books in August, and let's get talking about those. So the first book that I finished, or the first set of books that I finished, was Hyperion, which if you recall, I kind of alluded to it in my last wrap-up video that I was reading it. And so I finally finished it. I did finish it in August. And after reading Hyperion, I immediately jumped into the second book, which is The Fall of Hyperion. So whenever I first of all heard about the books by this author, Dan Simmons, and there were 4 books in the whole world, the whole series, whatever, I thought like you had to read all 4 books, but apparently Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion are one duology, and then you have something like Endymion, I don't know, but you have 2 other books in set in the same world but not the same characters that we followed in Hyperion. Maybe you could get glimpses of them, I don't know, but I ended up just stopping at The Fall of Hyperion. And I was like, yeah, I'm not going to read the other ones. Maybe someday, but let's get into Hyperion. Okay, so Hyperion is this sci-fi book where there's this church of the Shrike where people worship this mystical being that is protecting, or is in this kind of like a pyramid kind of place called the Time Tubes in this very distant planet. And you have to understand, like, this is a sci-fi world. So, worlds are kind of separated by, I don't know, if you wanted to travel with FTL, that's faster than light speed, you would have to use something they call like a portal kind of thingy. So some planets do not have that portal thing. So it probably takes like 50 years to get there. Anyways, we follow about 8 or 7, we follow 7 people who are supposed to go on a pilgrimage to the time tombs to be able to, I don't know, get some answers. And what kind of happens in this whole book is we kind of get each person's point of view, or their story, pretty much from like beginning to how they got to be on this pilgrimage. So we have the consul, we have the detective, who's Lamia, we have the scholar, who's Saul, we have Martin Silences, who's the poet, we have Paul Dure, who's the priest, and then we have Colonel Kassad, who is a soldier. We also have Hetmat Steen, who's like I want to say like a tree guide, or he's like a guide, but we didn't get his point of view, so I'm just going to add him here. But anyways, we follow these 7 people, and these 7 people kind of in turns, as they are journeying on this pilgrimage to the time tubes to go and meet the Shrike thing, they kind of tell each of their stories and how they got to be on the pilgrimage. And all while this is happening, there's other stuff that's going on. So I just don't want to get into it. But I think one thing that was like annoying for me about this book, the book was very interesting. I enjoyed reading the sci-fi-ness of it, the different, traveling through space, and then, AI was like a big deal and all of that. I think what annoyed me the most was the fact that the book literally ended when they got to the time tubes. I wanted more to kind of be like, oh, okay, what happens next? They're finally here because they've been on this long journey for such a long time. But that's also another reason why I jumped straight into book two, which is The Fall of Hyperion. Now, vastly different. My enjoyment of this book was not the same as the first book, and that's probably due to the fact that in The Fall of Hyperion, we encounter a lot more other characters, different peoples, different, POVs, and we don't follow as closely the POVs of the original seven people, right? So that was a loss for me because I kind of enjoyed learning about those people. I am a very character reading driven person, so it's like you took away my characters. We do follow them, but not as much as we did in the first book. And then I think another thing that I don't want to say I'm stupid, but maybe, I don't know. I'm not stupid, but by the time we actually get what was really going on kind of like explained, I'm just like, am I the only one who doesn't really understand, or is it just too hard? I don't know. I felt like the mechanics of it was a bit sketch. Like I was like, you know that meme? I'm gonna put it up where she's like doing like that's how I was like towards the end of the book because the Shrike is a bad person, right? Well, not a person, it's a bad thing. Like it kills people. It's like it's inflicting pain and stuff. So I don't still can tell you, like, I can maybe vaguely tell you what really happened in the book, but I feel like I was not satisfied as a reader because the explanation for why the strike was, why the time tombs were, and what was going on with the world was just not, it just wasn't it for me. So I don't know. I liked Hyperion as its own. It was still a top read for me, 5/5 or 10/10, whatever they call it. So, but the Fall of Hyperion was just, I don't know. It just went a different direction, I think. And so yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't my fave. But it was still a good read all in all. To be quite honest, like I'm not even going to lie, I really enjoyed learning about this sci-fi world. I'm not a sci-fi girl, but I enjoyed it. Like it was a really, really good book, to be quite honest. So, okay, let's go to the next book that I read in August of 2025. So, I got my Isles of the Emberdark book box. I did a video. I don't know if it's gonna come out before or after this, but I have a video where I unboxed this. So go watch it if you want to see me geek and talk about Isles of the Emberdark. But I did finish Isles of the Emberdark by Brandon Sanderson, and I absolutely loved it. This was so okay. So it was like a 4.5 kind of stars. So this book is following a previous novella called Six of the Dusk, which came out in Brandon's earlier works. So it's basically he kind of expanded on the story, and that's how we get Eyes of the Emberdark. We've already met Six, who's a trapper on this like remote island in the novella. So, there's some background that, someone who's like a Brandon Sanderson person would already know about this book. Now, one thing I thought was very brilliant that Brandon Sanderson did was in this book, he added like a, what do you call it, like a prequel, or he not a prequel. He actually added the novella into the actual book. Actually, I have it here. Let me bring it up on screen. So this is the book, right? And so what he did was the first like couple of pages is actually the original novella. So you actually can just buy the one book and you have everything. And he even made modifications to this. So I would actually even say that read this instead of going to the novella because there's probably stuff there that is not going to be here. So anyways, I read Owls of the Emberdark. First of all, this book is stunning, is so beautiful, easily one of the most beautiful books that I have on my shelves in my collection. I absolutely love like the gold and the scales and that kind of stuff. So, anyways, we follow six of the ducks, who is a trapper, and he from the novella, right? They are a world where they don't really have any influences or they don't know a lot of people. But then we have the Skadrons who come in their spaceship and are trying to negotiate stuff with them. That's kind of like where we leave off in the novella. So here things kind of pick up from there, where you see Dusk and his people. They know that the Skadrons, if they let them have their way, they will basically consume their whole world. And so they are, in this kind of like political back and forth where they don't want to divulge the secrets of the aviars or, stuff that's going on in their world. But they also rely on the Skadrons for, very powerful tech, whatever. So Six and Vatsy, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Vati, are trying to figure out a way to outsmart the Skadrons pretty much. So there's this region where there's like I want to say like a pool, and obviously I don't know what to call them, like the sixth people, that the I don't know, what do we call them? The Patch G people? I don't know, Icelanders. I'll just call them the Islanders. The Islander people, they don't really know what they have as being like a big deal, right? So Six then, he goes on this quest or this journey to figure out how to sail the Emberdark, which in regular people it's actually called something else, not called the Emberdark. So anyway, Six actually, is able to journey a long ways from home, and he realizes or he finds the schedules somewhere in like an island thing, and there's stuff going on there, so he has to kind of stop and investigate. On the other hand, we also follow Starlene is a dragon. I think Starlene is the major reason why this book is not a 5-star for me. I didn't dislike her, but she was too, how do I say this? I feel like she was too, yeah, she romanticized things a lot. Like, oh, I want to be such a good um person for people. Or I felt like she kept trying to do things just to do it. I don't know. She came off as kind of entitled. And another thing was she also she's a dragon. I mean, she's pretty young, so maybe she came off as immature is the word, I think. It's like I felt like maybe she was trying to be a hero, but not be a hero. I don't know how to say it. Anyways, Starlene was a dragon that was journeying with her crew. She gets, through some luck, gets coordinates to Padji. And so she and her crew decide to fly there, but then they get arrested by the Skadrons. And so really, really, Starlene and Dusk meet, and they are eventually figure out what's going on with the island, and it's a really happy ending. The only thing I'm going to say is, would you or do you think that Dusk is more invested than Yumi, or do we still think that Yumi is still number one top dog? I don't know. So that's one thing, because slowly you realize that, oh, okay, Dusk is like, he's the man. Like, so when you read the novella, you're just like, oh, okay, it's just one random dude. But he's actually pretty smart and he's very invested, which is something that we found out in this book. So it was a good read. I enjoyed it. I really especially loved reading this book. If you can see, it's actually white text printed on black paper, which I thought was phenomenal. I haven't seen this done ever. So I'll say something like when I was reading, it took some adjusting after reading on white text to go to black and then to go back to white. So this was a very fun read. I definitely enjoyed it. Now I'm gonna reread it again, and I'm also going to read Yumi and the Nightmare Painter just because I want to see something. I don't know. Anyways, so the next book that I picked up or I read in August was Out of the Woods by Hannah Bonam-Young. If you have been watching my wrap up videos, I finished what was the first one? Not it. No, no, no. That's Ali Hazelwood. Okay, so I finished Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. And for me, Out of a Limb was a 5-star book. I found it was literally the best book I've read, or one of the best books I've read in 2025. I can't say the same for Out of the Woods. I am so sad, honestly, because it was such a drastic like drop. Oh my god. This book was so annoying. Okay. Here, so we follow Sarah and Caleb. Now, Sarah and Caleb are already introduced in Out of a Limb, so it's not like you don't know them, but they are a married couple, and the book is about them after marriage, right? They've been married for like 10 years. So which I thought was a really great premise. Like we rarely get stories about people that have been in love or have been married. Like after the romance and like the fairy tale, we want to see like the happily ever after. So it was such a good premise on this book. And that's why I was so excited to pick it up. And I was so disappointed. Sarah, I think I don't really want to say my thoughts on the book. I just felt like it was a subset of their life. So I felt like the whole book took place in like a month or like a month and a half, which was annoying. And then secondly, Sarah was badly written. Like she was so, like you would not feel any kinship with her. She she was written in such a way that her insecurities were really like taken over. Like she wore a mask and she wore it really well, which I just was like, why? Whereas in Out on a Limb, Bo has obvious she has obvious disabilities that you would think would, make her be insincere or insecure with herself, but she was actually well adjusted. That's why I really liked that book. She was so mature. She was so smart, even though she had things against her. Sarah, on the other hand, has a phenomenal husband. They're rich. Like, it's not like she has to work or figure out anything or I get it. What I'm saying is she had such good things that there was really no reason for her to doubt herself. Like her self-doubt was like 1000% in this book. It was so annoying. Like I don't know. I don't know. I think I just did not like her. Caleb was just whatever you want, Sarah. Okay, whatever. So you can see that I just really didn't like the book. And it's so sad because I really enjoyed the first book, Out on a Limb, and I really, really thought that, this one would be another 5-star hit, but it sadly was not. And it is what it is. So the last book that I ended up reading in August, and this is going to be a huge surprise because, again, I am a strictly fantasy girl. I stick to my fantasy because it's what I know. But for some reason, I have been kind of venturing off the deep end. So that would be Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. Tchaikovsky. It's hard to say the R's or the V's. Anyways, I read Children of Time. This is not a new book. It's been out for a while. Adrian Tchaikovsky is a well-known sci-fi author, like as big as Brandon Sanderson in fantasy. So, it was always something that I was like, okay, fine, I will get to it. And guys, I read this and I was completely blown away. I finished this book in like 2 days. So that just says that maybe I am a fantasy sci-fi girly. I don't know. But anyways, Children of Time follows humans. So this is kind of almost the same as Hyperion because in Hyperion, people have destroyed Earth pretty much. And so they had to evacuate to the stars. Same thing here. Earth has been destroyed beyond repair. Like it's salvaged, completely destroyed. And so there is some exploration going on into, you know, going into the stars to, I guess, find new planets where human life can be preserved. So to that end, they launched different ships. The one on this one was called the Gilgamesh. So the Gilgamesh had like maybe 5,000 people in cryo sleep. And so there was some stuff that happened in like the beginning. And so they kind of had like some coordinates of where they wanted to go. And, so they set a course. And this book kind of takes place over 2,500 million years. It's not even like a joke. Like the time is really a big deal. So another thing I'm going to say is, so it's not really a character driven book or story. So if you don't care about characters, this might be a good one for you. I mean, even with that, I still really enjoyed the book. So like I said, there was this group that were tasked with going to seed uninhabitable planets in the vast space so that human beings can, come back, I don't know, 100, 200, 500 years later, and the world will be, well adjusted to be able to take humans, right? So obviously you have to make sure that the oxygen is right, the gases are not poisonous, that kind of thing, and it takes time. So there's this, science group that's charged with that, but then some hanky panky goes on, and this lady, this doctor who came up with the whole idea, is stranded in this century thing. And so she's like, fine, I'm going to wait until humanity comes back to pick me up. Meanwhile, I can watch over my experiment. From the book, we kind of understand that they did this in multiple different places or planets in space. So I think that's the premise for the whole series, because we have Children of Ruin and we have Children of Memory. So I believe that those books will be about other, creatures in other planets that were, like other planets that were seeded. Anyways, so we follow this group called the Gilgamesh Arc or Key Crew on the Gilgamesh. The Gilgamesh is a big spaceship that is carrying precious cargo of people with the plans to go to this planet that has been seeded and is kind of like waiting for them, like they're Eden, and go and repopulate the Earth. So they actually do get to the planet. Let's call it Ken's world. And they get to Karen's world, but then they are stopped by the lady in the sentry tube who tells them, you're not to interfere with my experiments. This world is, still going under experiment, and you need to go away. So she sends them off, and then, there's a lot of things going on. I don't want to really give away the book because it was really interesting just reading it without having any prior knowledge or anything like that. So anyways, we follow this group of explorers as they, as they fight against time, to race against time to find a place for humanity to land on, right? So there's a lot of things going on. And also the Cairns world, there's something going on. There's like an experiment going on there, which we find out. So I thought that this book was very, very fantastic. And I definitely enjoyed it. It was so different from what I typically read, but I will definitely be continuing on in this series because I thought it was really, really interesting. And it's so chunky too, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed just reading it. So I'm just gonna preface to say that humanity we just suck. I don't know, like exactly what happened in Earth that destroyed the Earth. That's exactly what happens on this ship, right? Because you get different factions of people fighting, trying to be in power. It's just a whole mess. But I think it was a really great, good read. Um, I can maybe kind of read the synopsis a little so you can get an idea. It says, the last remnants of the human race left a dying Earth, desperate to find a new home. Following their ancestors' star maps, they discovered the greatest treasure of the past age, a world terraformed and prepared for human life. But all is not right in this new Eden. The planet is not waiting for them, pristine and unoccupied. New masters have turned it from a refuge into mankind's worst nightmare. So now two civilizations are in a collision course and must fight to survive. So that basically sums up what I just said. So basically, there's a surprise waiting for them on Ken's world, and I'm not gonna say it, but read the book, or if you have read the book, like let me know what you thought about how phenomenal this book was. But yeah, I feel like that was all I read in August. I obviously have some new books that I would do a review on probably later on in the month. But yeah, thank you guys so much for sticking around and for commenting and for watching my videos. I really appreciate it. But yeah, until next time, thank you so much and have a lovely day. Bye.